Anyway, welcome everybody to another Clubs Forum, the last for the year, which is a bit of a relief because we've had a few presenters not able to step up as they had indicated they would. So today we've had to do a soft shoe shuffle and a bit of a scramble to bring forward a topic that we did consider earlier. So that's why we've brought forward QR codes for today. But I think QR codes are really quite relevant in today's world, and we're going to demonstrate to those who aren't totally familiar with them how it all works. I just wanted to sort of convey the fact that, you know, barcodes were the originator, and they started back in the 50s. But it wasn't really until supermarkets picked them up that they really sort of took on a life of their own. Is everybody aware that, like, the codes on a barcode actually mean something? Especially the country, when I worked in Perth about 100 years ago, I was a logistics manager for an importer, and I had to set up the barcode system for that company. Australia was leading the forefront because lots of the products that we imported did not have existing barcodes. So we had to create them for the benefit of the likes of Myers, David Jones, Grace Brothers, and, you know, corporate companies like that started using scanning barcodes at their checkouts. So at one stage I knew barcodes inside out, but it's sometimes interesting to look at the actual lines on a barcode, and you can differentiate, you know, the country of origin and the producer and the item number and, you know, things like that. And then it has a calculation, and then it has a chip digit at the end to say, you know, that the barcode is a correct one. And obviously barcodes are still used in supermarkets today. But then came the advent of the QR code, and I'm pretty sure that while it's been around for a while, that Teague will explain, there's an awful lot of people who don't realise the benefits of a QR code. So this is what we're going to enlighten you today. Thanks, Teague.
I quickly whipped this together, as Jen said. We had someone who was going to be presenting this month, and then they fell off the radar, so we haven't managed to pull them in. So I've whipped this up with the assistance of ChatGPT. So the facts I'm probably 50% confident are correct. So if there's anything in there that you know to be incorrect, please let me know. So who has used QR codes before? Excuse me while I look down, because you're all on there. So while I'm looking for responses, I'll be looking downwards, and then when I'm talking to the slides, I'll be up here. So, yep, Julie, you've got one. Beautiful. What's that one for?
It's for the back of the business card. I've got the direct link to Be Connected sign in, so that when we give a card out to our clients, we can tell them to go and register on the Be Connected site. It's on the back of the cards.
Great.
Yeah. And our ASCCA business cards have a QR code that goes directly to the ASCCA website too. So that's, yeah, all good.
So who wants to have a quick scan of that one and tell me where that goes? This on the screen here.
I had to find my phone.
I didn't warn you that it was going to be interactive, did I? It's a bit cheeky.
Goes to Facebook.
Yeah.
From.
That's our ASCCA Facebook page.
ASCCA Facebook page.
Question. While you're looking there, is it possible to explain what the difference between the QR code and the barcode is?
Well, I'm going to get to that in a minute as to why we've got QR codes instead of just barcodes. So Jen was explaining how each of the lines and numbers mean something in particular. And I'm sure there's a far more technical answer than I can give you at the moment, but you can imagine that the dots or the squares or the triangles or however a QR code is made up can be in a myriad of areas. So it's not always going to be that dot there means this and this dot there means that, etc. So it's not as structured. as what the
And one of the
barcode
other basic differences is the fact that you need a barcode reader to read a barcode, and then it transfers the data to a checkout or somewhere else. Whereas a QR code is really instead of a hyperlink, and it goes directly to somewhere online to give you further information, or goes to a website or a web page. Yeah.
Or I'll show you a few other things that it might go to as well. So the QR stands for quick response, and they're generally square shaped, but as you saw earlier, that one on the other screen is actually a circle. So they're not always just square. Oh no, that one's not the circle. I've got a circle one in there somewhere as well. So keep your eye out for that. So they are like barcodes, but they can store far more data, and they're much more easily readable by digital devices. So it's an easy way for us to share information or videos or all sorts of different types of information without someone having to write down a website address or anything like that. So that's probably one of the biggest benefits, I'd say, of QR codes.
And
good
putting
workshop.
like a hyperlink inside a newsletter, you know, and you've got to put the whole exact terminology or the link doesn't work. Whereas it's just much easier to create a QR code for where you want it to go to and put that in. There's no room for error.
That's right, and it's much
Quicker.
much easier to create those codes these days. So we will show you some of the options for that shortly. So, but this is the evolution according to a query that I put through the ChatGPT this week. Apparently, they were first used in about the mid-90s, and they were by a fellow by the name of DensoWave, by a company called DensoWave, a subsidiary of Toyota, for tracking vehicle parts during their manufacturing. So that was just, they would have had to have had specific, similar to what Jen said about the barcode scanners, they would have had to have had specific hardware to read those. In the late 90s to early 2000s, it became a bit more popular and a bit more widely used in other automotive areas and manufacturing industries. In the early 2000s, Japan adopted them for mobile marketing and information dissemination. So you might be able to find old magazines that might have QR codes in them from the early 2000s that could take you directly to their online site to purchase the product in the catalogue or the magazine or something like that. So I remember seeing those. In the 2010s, the global spread of QR codes were that actually went a bit further because smartphones came out. In the early 2000s, I mean, there wasn't even an iPhone back then, was there? That was 2007 before they came out. So, yeah, so I'm not sure how they would have been read in the early 2000s. We would have to do some more research in that. But in the 2010s, when smartphones became more readily available and more prolific, people could download a specific app that could just read the QR codes. So you had to actually download an app to read them back then. So in just not long after that, they became popular in the marketing. So things like catalogs would have a QR code, so you could go straight to their products, etc. So then in the mid 2010s, companies like Alibaba and WeChat began integrating them into mobile payment systems. Now, that's something that I haven't seen, so I'm not 100% certain if that's correct. But if you know anyone who has used that, then please send them our way. But of course, the most recent and the one that I do know about is in the early 2020s when COVID became a thing. The governments used them for us to register easily where we were entering and exiting shops and so forth. So I think everybody knows about QR codes, but again, with that one in 2010, you had to have a specific app to read it. So you couldn't have just used your camera phone. Oh, was it your camera phone? I can't remember. Seems that long
You
ago
could use
already.
a camera phone, but you had to have an app. And I've still got the QR scanner app on my iPhone, but my camera on the iPhone now scans QR codes. But believe it or not, it links up to the reader app.
Yeah. So
yes.
I think you had to use the Safer WA app here in Western Australia. So I'm assuming that all of the states and territories had their own. I know that the NT had one and South Australia had one. But you had to actually use that app to scan the QR code during your check-ins for COVID. Whereas the majority of QR codes these days, you just use on your smartphone. Most of them use the standard camera. We'll go into that later anyway. So
they used to use the barcodes in photography for identifying kids when you get a list of names, and it would give them a barcode, and then they had to show the barcode when they're having a photo taken, and that would match their name up with the person.
Yep.
Yeah, so school photos, because that would have been a challenging thing with so many.
Yeah, I didn't quite do it like that, but I didn't buy the technology for it. But the bigger companies, they had these scanner barcodes, and they used to print them all out, and they'd put them on the photos. Then the photo would come back. There would be a barcode if they wanted to reorder and stuff like that.
Oh, that's good. That's very easy. So, other than checking in for COVID safe stuff, has anyone used QR codes for anything else? Jenny, you don't count. I'm interested in. I know, Julie, you're good, but Ralph and Alan, have you used them anywhere else other than those sorts of things?
Use them in cafes too.
Not specifically, just where asked to, that's all.
Yeah, okay.
You go to a restaurant now, all the restaurants have got them out. Just order your lunch on
That's right.
QR
That's
code.
how you order. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. If you want to buy a coffee at my local coffee shop, there's an option where you can just scan the code, and then when you're 5 minutes away, you can just somehow or other send an order for a flat white, walk in the door, pick it up, and wave your phone at their reader, and walk out again. Oh, you take your coffee, of course.
How good is that?
And you can pay online.
They
have the online payments with that too. So you sit at your table, order, you pay it for it, and then it just gets delivered straight to your table.
Yeah,
Making
I
us
quite
lazy
like that in a busy restaurant.
Get up and walk.
Oh,
absolutely.
Table service. I like it when there's table service and you can see that the wait staff are really busy. If you can put your order in that way, I feel like I'm not sort of going, oh, hello, I'm here, and that my order goes and they bring it when it's made, so I don't have to annoy them. So I like it, but yeah, it is a bit of a concern. I mean, I think there's one argument for this sort of technology in that it's taking jobs away because they don't need as much wait staff, which is a valid concern. But up our way, we don't have enough staff to fill those jobs anyway.
That's
so
right.
It's going to make it easier for the small businesses to manage if people can be a little bit self-sufficient in their ordering. So it's like any new technology. There's a bit of a balancing act there that we need to do. So. But
I think really in this day and age, it's pretty well like, watch this space. There's no going back. It's only going to get, I could say worse, but I won't use that word because I've seen several years ago in America, like it's just second knowledge that, people, they don't even bat an eyelid, and, it's coming. And Australia is always a little bit reluctant to adopt new and innovative things. In this respect, I don't think we've got a choice. Either get on board or you don't get your coffee, Ralph.
Yeah. Or you have to wait longer, is basically what it is. So, if you've got time to wait, happy days. But if you don't and you're in a rush, I mean, you're propping up the economy by getting your coffee every day to go, aren't you? So, but today we wanted to have a look at some of the ways that we can use QR codes in our clubs so that it's making engagement with your target audience a little bit easier. It's making sharing information a little bit easier. It's making collecting information a little bit easier, as Julie has pointed out. So as Julie said, she's using it to direct her learners directly to their registration page for their Be Connected grant. So that's helping them to comply with their grant requirements. So that's great. That's less admin that Julie needs to do in her club to actually go and get people signing in. So
It's actually to the learners site, the Be Connected learners site, not the grant.
Oh, okay, right.
So our learners can go directly to Be Connected and register there and get their learning.
Good.
Very good.
Well done.
Yeah, that is good. We've I'll show you a few examples in a little bit about some of the things that I've seen them with, and Jenny's got some examples there as well. So I think for me, the benefits of using QR codes is that they're very easy to use these days. The smartphone's native camera app, as a rule, can actually just be like just taking a photo with your smartphone, which I would hazard a guess 99.9% of smartphone, or maybe 99% of smartphone users do on a very, very regular basis. So, it's not that much difference.
No, there's not a lot of people. They might have a smartphone and they might not use 90% of the functions that it comes with. They can ring up, they can text, and they can take photos. So that's all they need to do to be able to read a QR code. So there's no sort of lessons you need to go to to learn how to use your device to read a QR code. If you take photos, you can do it.
But if you do have people who do struggle with that, you could potentially run an information session. It doesn't have to be a full-blown class. It could just be let's have a look at your phone, see if it's capable. If it's not, there might be some settings that you can tweak for it, and then happy days, you get them off on their way. So one of the other benefits is that they're cost effective. They're much cheaper to print on a piece of card like Julie's got than to print a whole poster. You could get the QR code on a business card and it goes to the information or the poster that you want them to see. You're not having to pay for the full posters to be printed out, etc. So, that might be one of the benefits. You can.
I think today it's a demonstration of just how easy it is to use QR codes, and what we'll do later on is show you how to create them, and that's just as easy. So it's fear of the unknown more than scary technology.
So some of the practical applications for your club, has anyone got? Like Julie's using it perfectly, good example there. Ralph, you're not using them in your club at all. Alan, you're not using them in your club?
No.
So ASCCA had them on, so when we create our membership sign-up form, Microsoft Teams automatically generates the QR code that goes with it. So that's a benefit for us. If you have a form that you need somebody to fill out, you could print out one QR code. I've actually been advising small businesses here. So I have a lot of trades that are my business clients in town, and they've got forms that they need their tradesmen to fill out for jobs that they're doing. So they might create a form in Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Forms or Google Forms, and they generate the QR code for that, and they print it out, they laminate it, and they stick it in their car, in the tradesman's car. And so at the end of every job, the tradie scans that code on their dashboard. There's the form ready to fill out, and the work that they've done just populates into a spreadsheet for the admin lady. So it's all there and done. My husband is a volunteer firefighter, and one of their members set up a Google form for their vehicle checks and their equipment checks. So the same thing goes. They put the QR code up on the wall at the station. So if you've got forms or things that your members need to fill out each time, that might be something that you could think about doing, so that you don't have to sit down with them or say, oh, I'll email that to you, or whatever. It could be a QR code that sits on your wall, and it could be as simple as, did you have a good day today? Did you learn anything? Would you recommend us to anyone else? So gathering that information, and that sort of information in your club, when you're applying for grants and other bits and pieces, if you can say, look, we've had X amount of people through the door, 50% have scanned this and said what they think of us, and every one of those 50% think that we're amazing and give us a rating of this or that, and that adds weight to your grant applications and that sort of stuff. So, yep.
The Get Online Week have it when you did the scan, you had to scan and give you a report back on that, or that you asked the clients for that.
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, that sort of data is always going to be useful. So using something like a Microsoft or a Google form and a QR code so people can easily access it, and it automatically, when they fill the form out, populates into an Excel spreadsheet. So that you can use for all sorts of, weird and wonderful things, for data collection and proving that your club is as amazing as you say it is because other people are saying that it is, or, getting them to sign up for something. So, yeah. What about registering for events? If you've got an event on and you say, oh, you've got it, but you've got to go and get a ticket from Analytics or Eventbrite or something like that, you could put that on your posters. That instead of putting the URL on the poster, you could put the QR code that takes them straight to the ticketing page, so that they can do that. You could promote yourself through your social media pages, your Facebook pages, etc. You could put, so business, again, going back to businesses, but clubs would be the same thing. Review us on Facebook or Google or something like that, and you could generate a QR code that would take people straight to your feedback page on either Facebook or on your Google listing, etc. So that sort of peer review type stuff is always good when you're trying to attract new members, etc. So.
And also too, the fact that I can remember when we first turned our membership form to a digital format, and rather than email out a PDF form for all the clubs to hand to the secretary to fill in all the boxes and email back and everything, that's very sort of time consuming and an onerous task at both ends. So by having an online form, and we sent out a QR code, there were a few people, not too many, but there were a few from clubs, and they said, that they don't know what to do with a QR code, or their phone doesn't do it, or they don't do it, or whatever. And I sort of questioned that, perhaps a little bit prematurely, I'll admit, in that, computer clubs are there to be aware of technology so that they can then impart this to their members, not just keep it to themselves. Because as we've discussed, these days, if you want to go to a restaurant or something, quite often you're going to be ordering through a QR code. So in some respects, I thought that was a sort of a backward sort of comment. So that's another reason why we've had the QR codes on the drawing board, to bring them to the attention of the clubs. And in some respects, if clubs are teaching their members modern technology, QR codes are right up there with everything else. So by learning how it all works, it breaks down the barriers and shows you here and on the recording just how simple QR codes are to make and use, everybody should be embracing them and not being sort of afraid of this aspect of technology, because no one's afraid of, clubs aren't afraid of any other part of technology, but QR codes, there seems to be a stumbling block. Surely.
At the beginning, when I was doing them at the beginning of the year and I was using them in my workshops, I found the Androids were a bit of a pain because some of them had the older Android and you couldn't scan the code with the older one. So it got a bit tricky. It would pop up and then you'd have to do. So that was I obviously didn't prepare properly for it and wasn't aware of it, but we had to figure that out. But it doesn't seem to be quite as much of an issue now.
No, it gets better as time goes on, I think.
Yeah, but if phones are updated regularly, I would hazard a guess that if the operating systems are up to date, then they should all now be able to, unless they're 15 years old, then it might be a bit of an issue.
Seem to be better now, and I think that might be why.
Yeah. And there, I think Android's not my first language either. So I do think that there are some settings that you might need to tweak in Android, but don't quote me on that. I haven't. I'm not a strong Android user. I'm more in the Apple space. So yeah.
Do the QR codes give increased security in changing from the barcode to the QR code? I'm assuming.
Oh no, they haven't changed. There's still barcodes and QR. They're totally different and have a different purpose.
Right.
So the QR codes linked to something that's online.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's where you need to be aware of where it's taking you. But on saying that, the majority of browsers these days will automatically tell you if it doesn't seem to be a legitimate site, etc. So security is always a concern when you're going online.
Just quote an example. There's a retirement village near here where they have a QR code on their information page, and it takes you straight to a plan of the entire area, interiors for all the villas, a whole heap of information which you can navigate your way around. I'm guessing that's just a navigation tool to find it on the website. Is that?
Yeah, it's a direct link to a website, a YouTube video, or I'll show you some other things. So I'm going to put one up now. If you have a look at this and you tell me what this one has, where it takes you. There you go. So we said before that they're only square. That's not exactly correct. So you can see I've made a round one, but can you tell me what does that one give you? Oh, hang on. Well, yes, you can use your camera.
It's taken me to ASCCA.
It does.
Yep, to our website.
Absolutely. That's right.
Good.
And then we've got QR codes on the ASCCA website that take you to other places as well.
Right.
So if you are looking at QR codes on the website, you can either use your phone and scan them, or you should technically be able to click them and it will take you to where you wanted to go as well. So I tried that the other day. Actually, I'll go and find one and show you what we're talking about. So the next thing I wanted to show you was how we create QR codes. So Julie, you've obviously created one.
Yeah, I created it in Canva, but I was just saying before about the QR code, all those little dots, they're there when you hold your camera. Was it Ralph? I think when you hold your camera up, it will pick up those dots and turn it into a URL that will come up on your screen, and then you press that URL and it takes you to the website. So it's just a shortcut version. Instead of you typing www. blah blah blah, all those little dots will say, you create one, as Natika's going to show you, you create that out of, and it makes all these little dots, and those little dots become a code that create a URL, and you press it and it takes you straight to the website. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thanks, Julie.
Sorry, I'm a bit.
But yeah,
Okay.
so basically a path.
I think I was
somewhere.
Italian in a previous life as well.
It's
Very
just a
good.
code. It
Oh.
creates a code instead of
Yeah.
you having
Yeah.
to type it. It creates a
Link.
code that the camera can read and take you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No problems. All right. So
No.
have a little list here of some of the ways that we can create QR codes. As I mentioned earlier, it's built into Microsoft Forms. So that, let me just take you there and show you what that means. So this is our membership form. This, oh, nice hat, Barry.
Yeah.
So this is the back end of our ASCCA membership form. So you can see in here, I've got the all the questions, etc. But up the top, there's a collect responses button, and here it gives me a bunch of options on how I can share. Jen, you got that? Oh, sorry, I got him.
Got it.
Of how you can share this link, because as you can see, the link to get and feed. See, this is the path. Can everybody see that on their screens? If I put that up a little bit high, this is the path to get to our online membership form. So could you imagine listing that somewhere? I've got the option to shorten it, but even if I shorten it, that's still a fair string, and there's options for people to make mistakes, etc. when they're
Fraught
typing it
with danger.
with a zero
Yeah.
instead of an O, etc. And they might not get to where you want them to go. I can always send it in an invitation through here, or here's the QR code. So it generates it for me, and there's a big download button, so I can download that link, and off it takes me straight to the entry point of the form. So that's our Microsoft Forms. Let me just, actually, I haven't seen whether Google's Drive does it. Oops, I'll type in forms.google.com. Let's see if that'll take me there. Probably not. I need a QR code to get me there quicker. All right, so if I create a blank form, and let's see what their send option is. So they don't actually have an option to automatically create a QR code. Again, there's that big long string of characters that you would need to. I can shorten that. But how do I make that into a QR code? So what I can do is I can copy that link, and then I can go and either do a Google for QR code creator, and you can see the ones popped up, or I would go for a free one, just because, you know, you've got to see if it works first. So this is the one that I use a lot, and it's just, the URL for this is qr-code-generator.com. Now these are what's called static QR codes, and you can see here I've got an option for a URL, but there's also other options in here. So I could create a V card. Does everyone know what a V card is?
No.
Okay, so let me just go and find that one that I have done. I have made a V card with a QR code today. If everyone can try and scan that one for me.
Goes to Jennifer Wilcox.
Yes, but what is it?
Oh God, is it?
It goes to her in the contacts.
Yeah, that's right. It's a contact
She's the
card.
president.
Oh, yes.
So you
Goodness
can
me.
see here, this is one that I generated earlier. I put in there the name. I haven't put your mobile number in there, Jen. I haven't put your phone number in there. But I've put your ASCCA email address, the company, and your role. I could
What
put
was
your
that,
address
a
in
V
there.
card? Was that a V card, was it?
Yes, a V card. So it's like a, I think Microsoft called them V cards. They're basically the contact cards for Outlook to go into your contacts or into your iPhone, etc. So you can create one of those QR codes. I actually have one for myself, for my business. so that I don't have to share all of my details. I've just got my business details in there. If I see somebody in the street and I say to them, oh, have you got my number? I can just show them my QR code on my phone. They can scan it and they just get my business details then. They don't get all of the other bits and pieces.
Yeah.
So that might be
at one stage, when the directors of ASCCA were going to have hard copy business cards before we went totally digital, we were going to have an individual QR code on the business card for that very reason. Yeah.
So you could actually, if you wanted to print business cards, generate one of those and put them on your business card. But the risks of those are that these, unless you have a paid account, you can't track. So when you do have a paid account with some of these, you can track the scans of it. So you can see how many people have scanned your QR code, etc. That's a bit next level. I haven't done that before, but that's an option. So if you're trying to work out who's scanning your code for your business card at a trade fair or something like that, you can see how many scans you've had of that. But again, that's a paid service. So again, these are all static codes, and that's a free service. You can have what's called dynamic QR codes. So dynamic QR codes are generally attached to a paid service, and that code stays in your account in that paid service, and you have one code and you can change that code to go wherever you need it to go at the time. So for example, as a general rule, it might just go to the ASCCA website, but then if we have an event, we might actually change the back end of that dynamic QR code, and that might take you to the event page instead of the home page. So you don't have to go and print or disseminate new codes. That one can be changed to say or to direct people to wherever you need them to be directed to. But I haven't bothered to do that yet. So, yeah.
If not, why not?
Well, because it costs money, and do I really need to have one code?
Oh, exactly. And a lot of those things that, those options that are out there, I'm sure that's aimed at people who've got, huge egos and or got a huge marketing budget, and they've got nothing better to do but to go and monitor who's like,
and if it's quick enough and easy enough to
see how many likes they got.
Yeah. So I've drawn up one for a business client who's looking for Facebook reviews to build their brand. So we've printed out one of those to put on their stand to say, give us a review. If you're happy with our service, please review us on Facebook. I mean, if you're giving bad service, you might want to hide it when somebody nasty comes in. But I mean, it's an easier way for people to be able to leave you a review, because those sorts of things help to get your brand ranked higher, etc. And Google reviews are good, particularly if you're targeting people. I mean, I'm in a small town. Most of you are in larger cities, I would imagine. And if you're looking at a new coffee shop, you might look at the Google reviews to see if people are happy with their coffee blend or their service or something. We have lots
in
of
a tourist town, as you say, a lot of tourists, and you can do the QR code on TripAdvisor as well to see what sort of accommodation or restaurants or something are in the town that you're about to visit.
So I mean, my background is advising businesses and not-for-profits on how to use technology, so that's why I'm sort of focusing on businesses. But you could have things for your clubs that you might need to be looking for ranking, get your Google ranking up or your Facebook reviews up to attract more members. So if people are looking at it and going, oh, I want to learn about such and such, how do I? And then there's this I don't know, Newcastle Sea Pals, who are they? Let's check them out. And if the reviews are all good on Google, it might make people feel more comfortable. So you could be encouraging your members, Barry, to leave you a Google review on your business, and that might help attract more members to come on down, because your existing happy members will be saying they're fantastic. It's just like having a good chat every week, and we're learning so much, and we're so much more confident, and all of those sorts of things. So yeah.
The downside with the QR codes, the smarties, the hackers, the bad guys and so forth also know how to create them. And I have heard where they have created QR codes that take you to spurious websites, and they print them out onto sticky labels and go and stick them over top of genuine QR codes in a restaurant or some place like that. And someone who scans their code, and suddenly they've gone to a place they don't want to go. So there's the downsides of it. There's the the good sides of QR codes, but there's also a downside.
However, when say your phone scans the code, the website that the code is taking you to appears. So if it looks, Russian or Ukrainian or odd, you don't have to press to go there either. Yes.
But a lot of the seniors wouldn't know that. I heard that what you said, and I was wondering how that worked. Someone said that the QR codes can be dangerous, and I couldn't quite figure out how. But you've just explained to me now what. Oh, now I get it. Yeah.
But
that's sort of like physical intervention.
They can get in the back end and change where they potentially could. Smarter people than me could probably do that, that's for sure. I definitely couldn't. I couldn't work out how to do that. But there would be, look, wherever you're online, there's risk. Whenever you cross the road, there's risk. It's about us prepping our learners on what those risks might be and teaching them how to avoid them. So one of the main things would be, when you're scanning a QR code, your browser on your phone predominantly, I mean, if you're clicking on a desktop or a laptop, your browser on there as well. If you've got the most up-to-date versions, I don't know any browser that doesn't warn you if a site is dodgy these days. Google won't let you go to any sites without the SSL turned on anymore. So if you've got a site with HTTP instead of HTTPS, they'll warn you, and then you have to actually physically say, no, I want to go there anyway. So that's one thing to be aware of. Update your devices so that you've got the most up-to-date versions on them, because those big tech companies, they're all looking out to make things safer, because it's in their best interest to make the World Wide Web a safer place for us all, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah. So updating your operating systems and your browsers regularly is one of the risk mitigations that you can make to help keep yourself a little bit safer with those sorts of things. So, yeah.
And I mean, all these organisations and the government don't have Safer Internet Day for nothing either. No.
Yeah.
And the such likes. Yes. And it's up to us to make sure we're understanding of it.
Yeah. The other quick and easy way to make QR codes is with Canva. So I'm not 100% certain if it's a paid feature. Let me just get you out of the way and pop you over here, and I'll show you in the back end of my Canva. So I do need to go to the app. So this is the design. This is how I decide what I'm going to make. There's elements, text, brand, etc. But down the bottom, there are apps, and that's becoming a bigger and bigger repository of apps that you can plug into your Canva now. The one that I use the most is this dynamic, but again, it says dynamic, but I don't pay for the dynamic service. So I'm just getting static QR codes using the dynamic app. Now you can see I've already put one in there. You could see the different designs I could use. in here, I've got options for
Yeah,
square ones, with a border, without a border. They've got some dots in there, some no dots in there. I really like the round ones. So I click the round one, and then you can see here, this tells me how to build the QR code. So my site, so I'm going to put, I've already done the ASCCA website. My best tip would be go and actually take a link from a URL rather than typing it in yourself, because then you know that it's definitely going to work, and there's less risk of typos, etc. You can see I've got the option to make it a certain color. So the ASCCA colors are, I've got those over here. So I'm going to make it into the green this time. So I've got the color code from here. Then I just pop that color code in there, and that you can see the QR code is going to be that green. I can select a background color. I might make that black today. So that would be, it's not FF, it's not 0. So you can see it's a funky black with the green on top. And then I can put my logo in there as well if I like, which I have on that purple one. Can everyone see that? It's not too small. So you can see there's the little tiny ASCCA logo popped up in the middle of that. And then down here, I can decide what the pattern is. So can you see how that's changed it to heavier, chunkier blocks? Or if I want to go to little triangles, it makes the dots all little triangles. So you've got a lot of control in this dynamic QR codes app in the back end of Canva. I really like this one. You can click the dynamic. You will need to go to this hovercode.com and sign up for an account for that if you want actual dynamic codes. I've now been able to add that into the design, and I can move that around. Now, if you just wanted to use this design on its own, I can remove the background color and then I can add it in again. And then I've got my round dark mode QR code in a square. Oh, I just want it in the middle. I want it square in the middle. There we go. And I can now download that by itself with a clear background, and then I can put that circle anywhere I want it. So that's just, that's going to take us to ASCCA, I hope, if I've typed it correctly. So who wants to have a practice with that one?
I have created
Don't
them.
speak at once.
I have created them in the past. I've got
Very
Canva.
good. Yes.
But not
Canva's
like
so
that.
good.
That. Yeah.
You've
My
used it a
name
different
doesn't
way,
appear.
Sandra?
No, I said
know.
he hasn't done it like that. I just
Oh, you
realised my
have.
name- No, Barry hasn't done it like that. He's just done a QR code, but it's not come up with the anything in the middle. I don't think.
Right.
I don't think.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So that's why Canva is a really good option, because you've got a lot of control over how it looks and stuff like that. So
And you can sort of color code to wherever you're going to, insert it as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So your typing was accurate, Tate. It did go to the ASCCA website. Yes.
Very good. Very good. So
good.
some of the tips for effective use of this is to keep it visible where you put them. So whether they're on business cards that you give out, or whether, make sure people can see what they are and where they are. The size and contrast, keeping them large, high contrast is better for people that are coming in from a distance. You don't want to have people coming, if you want lots of people scanning it, you don't want to have it as a 5 cent or a 10 cent piece size on a wall, because everyone's going to have to crowd in and stuff. So linking it to clear and relevant mobile friendly content is a good tip as well. So that means that if you're going to take them to a website, make sure that that's a fully responsive website. majority of them are these days. There are still a few that are a little bit sort of challenging. And put some instructions on there to tell people where they're going and what they're doing, because you're right, Barry, it's a bit scary to just go and scan any old random QR code and not know where it's taking you. So that's one of the things that we could all keep our eyes on and say, where are we going, etc. One of the considerations, or some of the considerations, are that some people aren't familiar, which is one of our roles as clubs, to familiarise and make people at ease with QR codes and new technologies. It might be a little bit of a challenge to get them on board at the beginning, but perhaps that's a, come in and have a cup of tea and learn how to do this, and then you can participate a bit better. Or if you're volunteering for other organisations, what I'd really like to do here is, and I think they're doing it in some places, is that people are putting QR codes on tombstones now, and it's taking to memorials for the person in the grave. So there's another thing to add to your presentations, Jen.
Absolutely, I will. Don't worry.
Yes. How to set up a
I might make
video
a sample
on YouTube
one
or something
to show them.
Yeah.
I went to an exhibition, an art exhibition at Newcastle Library or Art Gallery, and there was an artist in residence, and she was busy doing something, but along one wall was a piece that she had completed with a QR code down the bottom, and out of curiosity I scanned it, and it took me to a video that showed her in the process of doing that art piece.
Wow.
Oh, that's so good.
Excellent.
Yeah. I've just had a great idea. I'm thinking it might be a great idea. When I travelled around in Queensland, I had my Wise and Connected signs on the side of my car, and I offered comments about it. I could just put a QR code. Then if they wanted to know, they'd have to go up to it and scan it and say, what is this about?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what a novel. Once you hit town, and they all turn their head to look at it. Yes.
I actually have one on the back of my car for my business. I've put one on the back of my vehicle. Actually, I'll try and find a photo for you. But yeah, that takes people to my business website, so I don't have to put my phone number on my car. So if anyone's like, oh, there's Teak, I need to see her next week, I'll just scan that, and it can. I think it's either to my phone number or to my booking sheet. I can't remember, but yeah, so I've got all those options on there. That's a good option. But if you are travelling on the open road, I'd make it bigger than what I've done. Mine's only like this big. It's only little. But yeah, so we also have a park here in town called Celebrity Tree Park. So whenever a celebrity visits Kununurra, we offer for them to dig a hole and plant a tree and have a plaque there. It's a Rotary and a Shire project. And I'd really love to have a link to their wiki page or something like that on the plaques moving forward. So if you're walking around and you're going, who is that? You can just scan it and you can figure out who
Absolutely.
that really was.
Right idea.
So yeah.
Well, we've got a historical nature walk in amongst trees right in town, and it's called Horseyard Hill. And horses were corralled and trained there before they were shipped out of Albany to the Middle East in the Second World War. And there's a number of trees that are planted on this walk, and it was my idea a few years ago to have some sort of a plaque at the base of each tree and a QR code, and it denoted the species of the tree as well as sort of dedicating to the particular horses. Unfortunately, it was a funded thing, and it was only for a limited time, and the funding ran out. But that led me to ask the government. We've only got one government department here in Walpole, hallelujah, and besides the cops. And you can do your own thing pretty much. And anyway, I acquired all the posts, and I'm about, in a little while I'll show you what we've done with some of the posts. Yeah. So when Teak's ready.
So yeah. So some of the other challenges were privacy concerns, linking, which we've already discussed, linking to unsecured websites, etc. But by keeping on top of everyone's updates, etc., that's a good option for a workshop for you as a club. One of the other considerations would be if people don't have a smartphone, they may be excluded from participating in whatever it is you're trying to.
Well, they could still, the
on.
apps are still available to download. So even if their smartphone doesn't take it with a camera, you can still have a QR code scanner app.
Yes, but I think the risk was if people don't own a smartphone. I know that's crazy, ludicrous thought, but there are some people out there who don't have smartphones. Like my dad was refusing point blank to get a smartphone. He had his flip phone, and when that one died, he had another one that he'd found at Cash Converters, and he was just going to stick to that. And there was no way, hell or high water, was he going to have a smartphone. But then COVID hit, and he needed it, so we got him onto an iPhone.
I cannot.
So yes, but there are.
I cannot believe that recently a lady arrived at one of our classes, and she had a flip phone. And she said, I bought this thing and I just can't use it. And I said, well, why did you buy that? And she said, oh, that's what they sold me. I needed a new phone and that's what they sold me. Yes. And I said, oh, what else do you use? Do you have a laptop? I have an iPad at home. I was furious because it was a local large electronics store that I shall not name, but there's lots of
which is a perfect spot for you as clubs to go and say, hi, we are blah, because so many of them do not have the capacity to support purchases of their items. And if you've got people, you could put your age bracket, put a QR code up and say, hey, if you're over 60 and you're confused about how to upgrade or what to upgrade, that, come along and make a donation of $20 to the club, and we can give you unbiased advice.
Yes, and it was just incredible. She said, I can use the iPad. And I said, but why on earth did you buy that? She said, I think money wasn't.
It wouldn't be unbiased advice. We tell them not to buy the flip phone.
Yes.
But
true.
And
we won't give them any advice at all.
She probably said, I want to buy something
cheap.
To
make the choice themselves.
Yeah, that's right. But I mean, I've got a very good working relationship with the Retrovision store here in town, and they just don't have time to help people set up phones and all of that sort of stuff. So that's what my business does. If somebody can't do it for themselves, they refer them to me. That's how they used to do it when we had our community resource centre here, and now that we don't have that, they just still send them to me rather than the CRC. So it's now paid service in Kununurra rather than a make a donation service. But I mean, that would be a good area for you to find new members or find new participants. So perhaps that, and having a QR code that connects to your club's contact page or Facebook page would be a really useful tool. Ralph's got his hand up. So where are you,
in
Ralph?
connection with advice. Does ASCCA still use Webster's insurance for?
Yes, we do.
It's called association liability. I think that protects you from advice you give to your members. Is that right?
Well,
not allowed to give any advice at all. We just make options available and doors open for the clubs themselves to contact Webster's by all means, and each case is different, and we just make the door available. Yes, we're not allowed to give advice, and it doesn't matter. Like each director is covered with indemnity insurance, but we still don't give actual advice. No.
We've just renewed
If
our Webster's policy there with that business policy.
Yeah. And there are a number of clubs that do take advantage of the benefits of being involved with Webster's, but it is only, we have to provide Webster's a list of current financial member clubs, and it's up then to the clubs themselves to negotiate whatever insurance they want through Webster's with, you know, a bit of sort of not leverage, but moral support, because they are an ASCCA club. But they do look at each policy individually.
Okay, thank you.
You're not giving advice, but you're offering options for someone to make a decision on. So
They make their own
that's
decision.
right. They do.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah.
How much is the discount?
That was a very good point, though, Ralph. Thank you. Had to share. So Jen had a few examples there ready to share to show you where Walpole has used QR codes.
So this comes, okay, so this won't take long. I know we've gone well over time. You know, as you know, Walpole's a little town, and we had this garage that used to house the original ambulance, which was a Ford Bedford back in, you know, early 50s or something. And it had these wooden garage doors on the front, because we've got a pretty spiffy sort of an ambulance now, and that's parked in the new garage up the back. So it was decided, because this is on the main street, which isn't very long, and so we decided that we will have a mural painted on the front of the garage to sort of, you know, attract everyone to the building and show off that end of town. And the chap in the mural on the left is Dr. Burnside, who was the very first doctor in the district. So this opening of the mural was in March. And to tell the whole story about the mural and the history of St John Ambulance and everything, I created a QR code that is fastened to one of the posts out of the forest for the walk trail, and the QR code is sitting right on top of it there, and it was unveiled at the opening, as I said. And the QR code, there it is in a close-up form. We're also doing another QR code, and then we're going to have another post attached with a bit of an explanation as to what page or what website the QR code actually goes to. So this is, as I said, this is the footpath and this is the main street. So people walking up and down will be quite taken with the mural, and then be able to scan the QR code and learn far more about it, and, you know, the history of St John's in Walpole. So that was one aspect that we did, and that's the QR code itself that I created in a free QR code generator program. So the next one will only take a couple of seconds, and this is the Mission House, and we're putting this on one sort of plaque, and this was back in pioneering days as well. So we put the explanation up there, and then this QR code is next to it. And the Mission House is no longer, the site is still there, and one of the fences is moved to the church site, which is in town. So there, and there's the QR code. So there, I mean, that's the end of it, but they're two very sort of simple ways that you can actually use QR codes in a different sort of context than taking you to another website or something like that. It does take you to a website, but not directly, and it's got some bit of, you know, explanations about it. And as I said originally, we had planned, and I think we still will eventually, because I'm the project officer as well as the secretary of the Historical Society, and do QR codes on historical buildings, like a little plaque at the bottom, and people walk around town and look at all the old mill houses and things, because it was a timber mill town. and they can learn the history behind it all. So that's once I finish building the museum, that's what I'll do in my spare time.
So that's, I think we talked about that in our last session with Jess from Collections WA.
Yes.
In that there's a big move in historical societies now to be digitising collections. So you might see a lot more QR codes in historical collections, etc., that will take you directly to that item on their collections websites around the countryside.
We saw a lot of that in Queensland when we were travelling through Queensland, and we also had ones where you could download the app onto your phone, and then this was up at Charters Towers. You put the app on your phone, and then you pointed at this particular thing, and all of a sudden you see these aeroplanes coming in from 1930 as they were coming over.
Right.
I thought, oh my gosh!
Augmented reality option.
Yeah,
it
was weird.
That.
It's amazing.
And of all places, little old Charters to do that.
Yeah. It's great.
Well, the thing is, as we said earlier, we can't ignore it. It's coming. So we might as well jump on the bandwagon and learn how to do it so that we're on top of it all instead of behind the 8 ball.
Exactly.
But yeah. Oh, good. Excellent. So, all right. Well, that looks like that's the end of the penny section for today. For a stand-in session, that wasn't half bad anyway. Excellent.
Well, thank you, everyone.
So,
Happy
have
Christmas,
a lovely
everyone.
Christmas,
Yeah, Merry
everyone.
Christmas all.
Yes,
All the
Merry
best.
Christmas.
Happy Christmas.
That's
we
my-
hope.
Okay.
See you in 2024.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes,
Yes,
absolutely,
2024.
Julie. Thank you.